Police have described him as one of the most dangerous individuals they've dealt with. The East London serial killer Stephen Port is facing life in prison after being found guilty of the murder of 4 young men. Luke Garrett has been following the trial for London Live and is over at the Old Bailey. Luke.
Thank you, Anthony. Well, it's been a long and complicated trial that comes after a very intense investigation by police into a man that they described as one of the most dangerous criminals they've ever encountered. 41-year-old chef Stephen Port from Barking has been found guilty of murdering 4 men: Anthony Walgate, Gabriel Cavari, Daniel Whitworth and Jack Taylor, all found around 500 metres from his front door, all of whom he met on dating sites or hookup apps, all of which were killed by a lethal dose of the party drug GHB. Well, as I say, it's been a very complex investigation by police, one of the most complex they've had in their history. That's the line they told me. I've been taking a look at how the investigation unfolded.
In this quiet suburb of Barking, the crimes of a serial killer unfolded. None of them any further than 400 metres from his front door. The first body was found here on Cook Street, outside Stephen Port's flat on the 19th of June 2014. 23-year-old art student Anthony Walgate from Barnet died from an overdose of the party drug GHB. At the time, Port claimed he had found Walgate's body outside his flat. Later, he admitted to having spent time with him in his flat, a crime that he spent 3 months in prison for after he was found guilty of perverting the course of justice. The second body was discovered just over a month later, here in the graveyard of St Margaret's Church. 22-year-old Slovakian-born artist Gabriel Cavari from Lewisham was found by a dog walker. As another month passed, the same dog walker found the third body, again near the graveyard. 21-year-old trainee chef Daniel Whitworth from Gravesend in Kent. Both men killed from an overdose of the same drug. A fourth body was found just under a year later, 25-year-old Jack Taylor from Dagenham. The Met, who had originally been investigating the death separately, launched a major investigation shortly after the discovery of the fourth body. Murder detectives arrested Stephen Port on the 15th of October. Soon after the arrest, more details started to emerge, and Stephen Port was charged with several other crimes: 10 accounts of administering a poison, 4 accounts of sexual assault, and 7 accounts of rape. As the investigation triggered a wave of people coming forward to reveal abuse. He was accused of taking men back to his flat after meeting them on dating sites and hookup apps, before drugging them so that he could abuse them. During the trial, the jury heard how Port had planted a fake suicide note on the third victim, Daniel Whitworth, attempting to frame him for the death of the second, Gabriel Cavari. The Met have said Port was one of the most dangerous criminals they had ever investigated, a self-obsessed man who never showed a shred of remorse for the victims or their families. They also said with 2,000 exhibits of evidence, including 10 million pieces of data and thousands of man-hours, the investigation was one of the most complicated in modern history.
Well, the family of some of Stephen Port's victims say they are pleased by the verdict, some saying it has brought justice to their murdered loved ones and that it was the end of a very long battle. Earlier on, we heard outside the court from the family of Jack Taylor, the fourth victim of Stephen Port.
We have just come out of court and finally we have got justice for our Jack, and now we can let our Jack rest in peace.
Jack was a loving son, a brother, uncle and grandson, and brother-in-law and nephew, and a true inspiration to everyone that knew him. He was the life and soul of our family. Our lives will never be the same, and we'd like to thank you all for showing an interest in our Jack, because he meant the world to us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, there were 29 charges in all of which were denied by Stephen Port. In total, the jury has convicted Port of 22 offences against 11 men. 4 counts of murder, 4 counts of rape, 10 counts of administering a substance and 4 counts of sexual assault. We have been told that he has been cleared of 3 counts of rape. Now he is facing life in prison, as he is expected to be sentenced soon as one of the worst serial killers in a decade.
Well, the Met is currently being investigated by the Independent Police Complaints Commission into whether officers could have dealt with the case more effectively. During the trial, the court heard there were possible missed opportunities. Commander Stuart Cundy says it was right that the force put itself forward for investigation.
There were similarities between the 4 deaths and the murder investigation, which has been one of the most complex and painstaking that the Met Police has undertaken in recent years. All that evidence was presented at trial, and as we heard, there were potentially missed opportunities in the first investigations into those deaths. And it's because of that that the Metropolitan Police voluntarily referred itself to the Independent Police Complaints Commission, and they're undertaking an independent and an open and transparent investigation into the actions of the police at that point in time. Now, it'd be wrong for me to sit here and preempt what the findings or the conclusion of that investigation might be, but if there is learning to be had, then rest assured the Metropolitan Police will ensure that's implemented. Those that investigated Stephen Port view him as one of the most dangerous individuals that they have dealt with, an individual who's self-obsessed and devious. And I'm very pleased that he's been convicted today, but equally my heart goes out to the families of each of those who died at the hands of Stephen Port, and indeed his other victims who so bravely gave evidence. If you have been a victim of sexual assault where you believe you've been drugged and then assaulted, and in particular if you believe you're a victim of Stephen Port, then I'd urge you to contact the Metropolitan Police. We'll take your allegation exceptionally seriously, we'll investigate each of your crimes, and we'll ensure that you're supported throughout.
The case of Stephen Port has also led to the police examining how they deal with crimes relating to the LGBT community. It follows claims from campaigners that they appealed for information too late and that some of the deaths could have been prevented. Police chiefs say they've carried out extra training and put liaison officers in every borough. Jack Gilbert is from the East London charity Rainbow Hamlets and helped the Met develop the new strategy.
Certainly, since the matter of the connection between the incidents, between the deaths, was identified, the Met has behaved pretty well in taking advice. They could do more with community engagement, but in reality, they've taken advice, they've been very sensitive, they've listened, and I think that's a very good example of how homicides should be conducted. And in general, homicides involving LGBT people, lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender people, do involve a community advisor in the management group, the gold group, quite consistently and usually very effectively. So the issue here is whether or not the Met could have done more to spot the connection between these suspicious deaths. And it's that needs attention. Now, the IPCC report will identify whether this was just unfortunate errors or indeed worse from individual officers, or whether this was a pattern that is some form of systemic issue. So from my point of view, no one can say whether it's one thing or another at this stage. But what we can say is, on the issue of dealing with suspicious deaths, the Met has to do more to ensure that they have the confidence of all communities that they will spot the difference between an unfortunate event and a suspicious event. And in this case, they didn't.